Hi, I'm Johnny Smith, host of the Inquisitive Minds podcast. Join me while we interview all manner of interesting people from all walks of life. Some conspiracy, some cryptozoology, and just some things that are just plain interesting. Every week I'll have someone with me who is an expert in their specific field.
This is the Inquisitive Minds podcast.
Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Inquisitive Minds podcast. Today, my guest is a researcher and investigator of the unexplained and founder of two research groups, the Center for the Unexplained Events, CUE, and the Center for Cryptozoological Studies, CCS. He has appeared on Monsters and Mysteries in America on Destination America, a national cable channel. He was featured on the independent film Mountain Devil, The Search for Frank Peterson, was an extra in the Mothman Prophecies, a movie filmed in Pittsburgh, and he also appeared on various internet radio shows. He's a member of the Butler Organization on Research of the Unexplained and co-sponsor for the Butler Paranormal Conference. He's a former member investigator of Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, and the Pittsburgh Bigfoot Society. The Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society. He has co-written articles for the Creature Chronicles column in the Hancock County Courier in West Virginia from August to November of 2013. He was also a co-instructor for the first ever cryptozoological class at Eastern Gateway College in Steubenville, Ohio, and he is a co-founder of Cryptid Seeker magazine along with founder Jody Cook. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Brian Seech.
Thank you for having me here today, Johnny.
I am very excited to have you here today. You know, when I was 12 years old, I remember going to the shoe store. And at that point, I wear the size I wear now, which is 13. And it is now, but especially then, it was an extremely big foot. And that's going to be our topic for today, folks. We're talking about Bigfoot. I'm just going to jump right into this. Tell us a little bit more about your Bigfoot experience before we go into some questions. Like, I guess, how did you get started into this?
Well, basically, I was always interested in the phenomena. Growing up during the 70s, I would watch UFO and Bigfoot movies and Chiller Theater, if you guys remember Chiller Theater. I watched Chiller Theater a lot. So I was always interested in the UFO/monster aspect of everything.
Okay. Now, before I get started, I noticed yesterday you shared a picture of a book called Pennsylvania Bigfoot.
Yes.
Can you delve into a little bit of the story of Bigfoot and how he coincides with Pennsylvania, and a little bit about just Bigfoot in general for people who are unaware?
Well, believe it or not, I know a lot of people might not know this, but creatures called Bigfoot, or they would call them gorillas or wild men, have been in newspaper articles, and people have been seeing these creatures since about 1900, and they've been talking about them. The book you're talking about, Pennsylvania Bigfoot, was written by a gentleman named Dr. Paul Johnson. He's actually the second longest Bigfoot researcher in Pennsylvania. He's actually part of our organization also. And his group at the time, the Pennsylvania I lost my train of thought on that. The Pennsylvania.
I will say, delving into the local.
It was his research group at
groups,
the time.
There's a lot of variation in the word society, association, group, and all that.
Yeah, so he ran the group back then during the 70s to the late 90s. It's technically still in existence. He runs it himself, and. Basically, what people have been seeing in Pennsylvania is about a creature that's about 6 to 8 feet tall, all covered with hair, looks like an ape.
Like a humanoid.
Bipedal. And these...
And that's the general description of Bigfoot, give or take, across the board. Across
the country, yes. And actually across the world. Mm-hmm. Many of these creatures... they're seen in all different parts of the world.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you asked that. Okay. I have a question about that. A lot of times in the U.S., he's known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but in Tibet you have the Yeti.
Yes.
In Canada you have the Wendigo, and then in certain parts of the U.S., like in Florida, North Carolina, and Arkansas, you have sightings of skunk apes.
Yeah, they call them skunk ape, yeah.
My question to you, since we're talking about that, would those be all different species or different regional animals? Like, would it be the difference between a boxer and a pit bull, or the difference between a wolf and a poodle?
They're probably just a different species. Some may be subspecies, because the general range is they all look pretty much alike, especially the ones in the United States.
Okay.
There are some in different parts of the country that might look, across the world, that might look a little bit different. But like in, island of Sumatra, they have the orang pendek.
Okay.
It's a much smaller creature. It's about a 4-foot tall creature. So they range a little bit in size. And
now, have you seen a Bigfoot? Have
no,
you had an encounter?
That's the reason that I got into this. My wife and I, Terry.
Okay.
That's the reason that we got into it. We would like to have an encounter ourselves. Have we ever seen anything? No. Have we heard some really strange things in the woods? Yes. We found a print back in 2002 with the PA Bigfoot Society, but we haven't had any actual other encounters.
Now, is that the print you brought with you?
No. That did you want me to show the print?
Yeah, you want to show that to the camera? That's a Bigfoot print?
Yes, I don't know. Can you see it? You see it right there, I guess?
Yeah, if it's on the screen, they can see it.
Okay. Yeah, this was a print from Dr. Paul Johnson's group, and this was December 29th, 1974, around Allison Park.
Okay.
The story on that was pretty cool. There was two young kids looking out their window, and it was right after Christmas, and there was a big Christmas tree in their backyard with lighted Christmas tree.
Yes.
And they look out there and they see this huge ape-like creature looking at the Christmas tree. So they ran and called their dad, and so the dad called Dr. Johnson's group, and there was a researcher out there later in the evening, and they casted this thing, I think, first thing in that next morning. So we tell people this is probably the best piece of evidence we have, even though this is the original cast too.
Okay.
This is the best piece of evidence that we have, even though we didn't find it. A creature was actually seen, and there was actually a footprint found at the same location.
So, obviously, there's people on the other side of the table, that don't believe in Bigfoot. My question to you is, outside of wanting to have an encounter, what motivates you in the search, in your search for Bigfoot in the face of such opposition? Because I'm sure you come into people that are just plain rude. I'll be honest.
Yeah, we've been made fun of a lot, my wife and I, and all of the researchers. To be honest with you, you get a little bit of teasing, a little bit of ribbing. It's like, yeah, there's no such thing. Mm-hmm. How could a creature survive in Pennsylvania, even though Pennsylvania is about 59-60% forested? So, and it's a huge.
It's really beautiful forest.
I mean, we have a lot of mountains, we have a lot of mines, a lot of caves. So, if these creatures are indeed a flesh and blood creature, then probably a good chance that's where they live. So, and I agree with people on being skeptical. I mean, you should be skeptical. We as far as evidence that myself and all the groups that research this, we have the footprint casts. We have hair samples that haven't been doesn't match up with any species. You have sound recordings, and then you have the eyewitness reports, which are there's a lot. Pennsylvania probably has anywhere from 700 to 800 reports over the years.
Oh, yearly?
Yeah. No, not yearly.
Oh, just over
in general.
That's
yeah.
still quite a few sightings.
And as far as yearly, I don't know how many. We get several. Some years are better than others. Some years we only get older reports. So, there's a lot of different groups. Yeah. And I would like to just have a quick shout out to a couple of these other groups here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, how about it?
Is the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project that's run by Mary Fabian.
I was actually speaking with her this morning.
Yes, I saw that.
Good morning.
The Keystone Bigfoot Project, which my wife and I are still members, that's the old PBS.
Okay.
It's run by Sean Forker. The Fayette County Bigfoot Research Project, which is run by Fred Saluga.
I met Fred Saluga many years ago when he was, I believe, like a caseworker for children.
Yes, he was.
My aunt had adopted some children, and I believe this was the last visit, and he was retiring from that position. And I spoke to him about him and his interest in Bigfoot, and I found out he was doing, a talk at some conference. But then, I was young. You lose contact over time. But I actually added him on Facebook when I found him through some of the Bigfoot groups. So at some point, I'd like to reach out to him too.
Oh,
but yeah, I'm
Fred
familiar
would definitely
with him.
come up. He would be a great interview for you.
Yeah, he definitely would. I see his Facebook posts, and maybe some are controversial, but his belief in the unexplained is what fascinates me.
Yeah, the thing with even especially Bigfoot itself, there's many different views on what the creature is or could be.
A good thing you put that up. I have heard different theories on the origin of Bigfoot. From an undiscovered species, obviously like a missing link. I've heard supernatural explanations. I've heard extraterrestrial explanations. He could be an alien. And I've even heard that Bigfoot can be from another dimension. What are your thoughts, or at least where does your theory come from on the origins of Bigfoot?
Well, when people ask me what exactly do I think it is, I'm kind of like on the fence.
Okay.
Slightly still over on the side of I think it's some kind of undiscovered animal, but only very slightly.
Okay.
But as you've said, there's people who think maybe this creature, like Fred does, this creature is somehow an interdimensional creature that can cross through dimensions in ways that we don't understand.
I feel like this is a safe environment to not make myself look like I'm thinking out of the ordinary, but in all honesty, the interdimensional explanation is the one that I subscribe to. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I find that fascinating, and in my mind it explains how he hasn't been caught or so forth.
Yes, and there are a lot of certain strange aspects of Bigfoot. We call them high strangeness cases, actually,
okay.
As if seeing an 8-foot-tall gorilla outside your window isn't.
You want to give a couple examples of those cases?
Yeah, sure. There's been a lot of cases, and Fred's had some of them where Dr. Paul Johnson has in the book, where there will be a series of footprints that go out into the middle of the field, like a snow-covered field, and then they stop. A regular animal can't do that.
Like, where did it go?
Some people say, well, the explanation for that is they backtrack. I mean, they backtrack perfectly. On their feet all the way out back. I mean, some animals can, but where do they go? Do they go through something? Do they go up? Where do they go? So the interdimensional theory could explain a lot, whereas a creature could be seen on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, and then all of a sudden, boom, down to Beaver County where we live. How does it get there that fast? And that has happened. So, what do I think? I think it's slightly more on the possibly being a living, breathing animal here on Earth.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. But as our organization, Center for Cryptozoological Studies, we research all these different cryptids, whether it be Dogman or these winged entities like Mothman.
I'm going to veer off for a second.
Okay.
And I'm very curious to know what Dogman is.
Dogman, believe it or not, it's a creature that, and I hate to use the term, that kind of looks like a werewolf. It is an upright, canid creature, walks on 2 feet, and if you would actually just take a large wolf, put it on its hind legs, that's what these things look like.
Would you put in a wolf in a trench coat? There he is. You can't see this movie. And where has he been spotted?
There's been a lot of sightings in Ohio. Up here in Pennsylvania, we research the Shenango Reservoir. There's been a lot of sightings up there. They actually have dubbed it the Shenango Valley werewolf.
Oh.
This is a phenomenon that goes back all the way to the 1950s and 1960s.
Now, when you say you didn't want to say it like that, maybe I'm unfamiliar. Is werewolf an antiquated term? Or?
Well, when you think of werewolf, you think of like Lon Chaney and the werewolf on TV, where a man gets bitten by a wolf and turns into a werewolf. I don't think that happens. A person's anatomy, to me, just can't. It can't transform into a wolf.
Now I'm curious to know what if a werewolf is real. What would it be? Would it be then a wolf that its anatomy changes?
I don't know.
Okay,
that's the thing is we just don't know. We get the cases and we try to research them.
No, go
as far as we can.
The Dogman of Ohio, the werewolf. Okay,
Shenango Valley werewolf.
Shenango Valley werewolf.
If you type it in, you'll find out quite a bit about it.
So I was going to ask the next question: how do you track something like Bigfoot? I'm assuming you hear a reported sighting, you go out there and just explore the area.
Yeah, we have a large database through the years, not just for me, we use other people's databases. There's a lot of researchers in PA. And you can pick certain areas that have had a higher number of sightings, and we will go back and re-research those areas. Or if we get a new report, we'll go out there to see if there is any footprints or any physical evidence like broken trees or possibly an animal that's been killed or something.
I was going to
like
ask that. Is any violence attributed to Bigfoot?
Yes, they definitely don't like dogs. There's been a lot of stories where they'll kill dogs. They just don't like dogs. Some other animals have been killed allegedly by them. So.
Do we know anything of their diet? Like, are they carnivorous? Or?
Basically, people think that they're from the reports. Now, a lot of the things that I tell you about Bigfoot are based on a compilation of all the eyewitness reports through all the databases. So basically, Bigfoot would be an omnivore.
Okay.
Or some call him an opportunist. It's like, what does Bigfoot eat? Whatever he wants.
I just watched this very quick series of videos last night about this group of chimpanzees that eat other little monkeys.
Yeah, I
hunt and eat these other little monkeys and rip them apart while they're alive. Like, it's crazy. And that just made me want, Bigfoot can, if he's Bigfoot, obviously grab something and whoosh.
They've been known to kill deer and tear out their eat their livers.
Oh, that's the tasty part. Yeah. That's the worst part.
It's actually the most with the high protein.
See, they're in the exercise. I guess so. They're in the wilderness. They got to be fit. You got to eat the fatty parts. Yeah. Tastes better. So you're out there. You're looking for casts. Do they have any type of language? You say you have. There's been recordings when it comes to sightings and stuff. What is known of their linguistic abilities?
Well, there's a gentleman, Scott Nelson, who he is a linguist, and he has found that there is a code and a pattern to some of the things they say. He's still working on it today. As far as what we've got in the howls, you've probably heard of the Ohio Howl, I'm sure.
Yes.
We actually investigated that area.
Okay.
That's in Wallsville, Ohio, and we actually know the property, what it came from. We actually heard that because we research a lot. We're in Beaver County, which is right next to Columbiana County, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And
Beaver County.
Yeah, there's a Beaver Creek State Park is in Columbiana County, Ohio, and have done a lot of our research there. Okay. So we actually heard that same call in 2012.
Now, for the skeptics out there, this is a question I've gotten from numerous people because I asked people, what questions would you like to know? Bigfoot's real. He's elusive. We're tracking him for years now. Even Native Americans have stories of a big, hairy creature. Where do the bones or the bodies go? What do we account for that?
Well, any researcher will tell you that nature has a great disposal system. Any
that's
creature that's dead in the woods is going to be eaten. The porcupines will eat the bones. So dead animals don't
I did not know porcupines ate bones.
Yeah, they'll eat the bones. So an animal or a creature, whatever these things may be, they don't last long in the wild. Some people think some of their more human characteristics, if they do live in groups, which it seems that they do, they will bury their dead. So that's kind of the only explanations we have.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about the group living? Because I would always assume it was a solitary animal or creature.
We actually received one report from Ohio where there was a group of 3 of them that they saw up on a hill above
I
their
imagine
house.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah, as if seeing one wouldn't be.
One's not enough.
And one of them was a smaller one.
There's 3
like
of them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Now, another question from a listener. Could there be a government conspiracy to cover up the existence?
Now, we've heard that for a long time, and if you kind of think of this, when any kind of animal becomes endangered or protected,
okay,
what's the first thing that they do? If there's a marshland, or what do? They take that area and they restrict it from logging, right? And they restrict it from doing anything.
Yes, they close it off.
Now, if they were to come tomorrow and say, yeah, well, we know that these animals are there, we're going to protect their habitat, all of a sudden, large plots of land that loggers and things could go on and take their log and take all the. You can't go in there anymore. So would the government put it this way?
So the national parks could be part of the
could
conspiracy.
be part of it, and it does make in a way it makes sense. I was always told, well, what if you say Beaver Creek State Park? If they knew one was there, okay, they would. It's a protected habitat. You can't go in there. say the park next door. Well, would a family want to bring little Johnny and little Jimmy camping in the woods where there's a big creature there? So, I mean, there's a lot. People don't really think. There was a lot to this phenomena if it were proved to be true. A lot of things would change.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I guess an important question I have is, I think about Bigfoot and the search and what's next? You know, if you find him, what's next? You know, is there, you put him in a zoo? You know, I know some people, if they saw him, would obviously try and shoot. You know, they kill him, then they have the body. What is next after all these years of searching? If we, boom, tomorrow we go outside after the episode, he's in the driveway.
We can come home with us if he wants. We'll throw him on the roof.
Harry and
like
the
Harry and the Henderson.
We don't want you anymore. Get the hell out of here.
Well, like I said, you know, once it's proved that they need a specimen, either alive or dead. Hopefully, I would rather see an alive one. But then again, it would be put in captivity and be, you know, experimented upon.
I know a lot of this is speculation, but do you know anything about the temperament? Because an animal that size, even say a gorilla, you know, can cause whatever damage they want to cause. So is there anything known about the temperament of Bigfoot? I know you said there's been a lot of sightings, obviously. Some of these people had to have seen interaction.
Well, yeah. Basically, they're more benign. They observe. They will watch. They observe. Usually at a distance, according to the reports. And I kind of want to keep going back to that. According to the sighting reports, they will throw rocks. They will get aggressive. They will howl. They will scream if they don't want you in their territory. It would kind of be like if. You know, you would come in my backyard and you take up residence, or you're bothering me. It's like, get this guy out of here.
Get the hell out of here.
So
you know what? And that's what I appreciate about it, because whether or not Bigfoot exists is something we can't physically prove right at the moment. But we can prove that there was a report made. You know, and as far as sources go, it says, look, I'm not saying this, but it was reported that this happened. So I can appreciate that. Now, you mentioned earlier, and I think I got distracted, which I do, some high strange cases. And I think we just slipped past them. If you want to go over a couple of cases or investigations that you personally had, I would love to hear them.
As far as like some of our own cases, we usually just get the benign ones. We don't get cases. We did receive one case that our friend Fred talked to the witness, was up in Robinson Township several years ago, that he claims this creature crossed the road, and as it was crossing the road, it was disappearing. But all the other cases are pretty benign. You know, they'll be driving, they'll see this creature on the side of the road, or cross the road, or they'll look out their window and they'll be in their yard.
That's fascinating.
Those are the more benign cases that we've got.
Walking across the road and disappearing at the same time.
Again, high strangeness cases, they're very rare. I kind of want to say that they're very rare.
Yeah, that's extremely rare. From what I heard, some people believe that there's a correlation between like Bigfoot and UFO sightings. Apparently, there's been like when the UFO sightings increase, Bigfoot sightings also start to increase. What's your thoughts on the correlation?
Well, Pennsylvania has had a long history of UFO sightings in conjunction with Bigfoot sightings. There'll be a light in the sky. They'll see a strange craft, and boom, all of a sudden they'll see a Bigfoot in the area. So Pennsylvania does have a rich history of that. Especially in 1973 was the biggest UFO Bigfoot wave.
What happened in 1973?
There was a lot of cases where UFO were seen, and then in conjunction with the Bigfoot sighting. There was over 100 sightings that year.
Now,
Not all of them with Bigfoot and UFOs, but
was this statewide or was it concentrated in a certain area?
Statewide. A lot of the cases do come out of Westmoreland County or along the Chestnut Ridge, which runs from Indiana County all the way to West Virginia. And a good chunk of the cases, like Westmoreland County would be number one as far as sightings, Fayette County number two.
Oh, really? I would have never known that.
Yeah.
See, I was reading an article this morning because I try and always figure out a little bit about my topic. And when you start going online about Bigfoot, whoa, you talk about a rabbit hole. But the one thing I was reading this morning is some guy is convinced that Bigfoot are from UFOs, and they are sent down to do the groundwork and the dirty work of the other aliens in the spaceship, which just blew my mind. Because before today, I didn't know they were connected. Like, before today, I had no idea that one had to do with the other.
Well, again, it's still a small number of cases as opposed to all of the cases with Bigfoot. Yeah, it's still, and again, I couldn't give you a percentage, but again, your majority of your cases for most of your researchers are going to be a solitary creature, no UFOs, no nothing. But the one new phenomena that has come up in the last probably about 10 years that people are talking about is when you're out in the woods looking for Bigfoot, people are starting to see these light spheres. These some call them orbs, we call them light spheres. We're actually, our other group, Q, is actually researching this now. We have a new research called LAE, Light Anomaly Exploration.
Okay.
And we're actually researching the actual, we call them light sphere phenomena itself.
Do they look like orbs, though?
They
just
look
for
like
a
orbs.
frame of reference?
Yeah, they look like an orb that lit up white, red, orange.
Now, are there any other cryptids in Pennsylvania specifically?
Yes, you will have your dogman sightings.
Yes, we did.
We've had some winged entity sightings. People will say, what's a winged entity? You can say they're a Mothman type entity. You have thunderbirds, which are large birds that some people say could be like pterosaurs or
See, I didn't know those were in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, mostly up in a lot of sightings along the ridge, Chestnut Ridge, and a lot of sightings up in the Black Forest area.
Can you imagine the story if a couple of those decided to fly over Pittsburgh?
Yes.
That would be, wild. I've heard stories about the great birds, and I've heard the pterodactyl theory, and I just I want to believe in everything else. I just don't think that's fathomable. Again, I'd have to see it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's one of those
it takes a
things
leap
to
of
me.
faith to think that they're real because, let's face it, when you're looking at something up in the sky, you don't have any point of reference to measure it.
Yeah.
Something that looks really big, when if it would get close to you, it's a lot smaller. So, depending on your angle, so you don't have that size of reference to.
I've always wanted to see something like that, and I have never. I've never had any type of cryptid experience, and I've never had any UFO experience. And I don't want to say it's because I want it too much, because I don't necessarily want it. What if I'm camping and I'm by myself? I'm going to be terrified.
Yeah.
Has there been stories of Bigfoot attacks? I know we talked about him killing animals. Has there been Bigfoot attacks?
Well, there was the old story in Teddy Roosevelt, the Wilderness Hunter.
I'm not familiar with
where
that.
Two trappers go up into Canada and they're trapping. They're setting their traps up, and something trashes the camp. So later on that night, they see this creature. They shoot at it. So the next morning, they decide to get out of there. So they split up. One guy grabs the traps. The other guy grabs the traps. They get back. Well, one of the guys gets back to the camp. The other guy doesn't show up, and everything's still torn up. And he looks over to the side, and he sees his buddy's body, and his neck is snapped. So he got scared, and he rode out of there. So
he probably made fun of the beef jerky.
That's right. He doesn't have a good temperament on Jack Links, does he?
He's not good. He's not represented well on there. You know what? I hate to get on a soapbox here, but I want to say Jack Links. I bought some beef jerky that was advertised as tender, and it was not fucking tender. You guys need to get your shit together. Huh. What about, has there been, and not just Pennsylvania, but anywhere in the world, a story of some type of, not necessarily cohabitation, but existence with the creature?
Yeah, you do get. We've talked to some people who claim they've, cohabitated with them. What seems to happen in those cases, if some guy or a family will move out in a desolate area, there's woods and not many other houses. Mm-hmm. If these creatures are watching them every day, and every day they're watching their habits, when they come, when they go, then they start to get closer and closer. And if some of these people, which probably is not a good idea, don't get me wrong, they'll start setting out food for it, and then these creatures get used to that. And then when you don't set food out for them, then they get angry. And so there is a thing about not to feed these creatures.
Don't feed the Bigfoot.
Don't feed the Bigfoot.
You know what? We're going to start doing tips of the day here at the Inquisitive Minds podcast. And our tip of the day, Don't feed the Bigfoot. Bigfoot's fascinating. And you know what? I hate to keep jumping back to the alien theory because I don't necessarily know how far I believe that. But as my brain's working, I could see them as a crude, hairy human suit. Oh, this is what they look like. They're hairy. What? They don't have hair everywhere? Trust me, you'll blend in fine. Just sending them down and awkward. The thing is, like, it's tied up in so much lore, too. Like, it's not something that's new. It's not a fad. Like I said, there's Native Americans that have stories in their back legends about, big, hairy creatures.
Yeah, there are some also that out west that they claim that they call them the crazy apes. They came down in a big sphere, and they called them the crazy bears.
Can you elaborate on this a little more?
Yeah, they called them the crazy bears out west, and I don't remember where out west, but
as far as like California out west.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And this would be the Native American traditions.
Okay.
They call them the crazy bears, and when they die, the sphere comes back, and then take them back up. So
that's fascinating. Yeah, maybe you know more about this than I do. Has there been any Bigfoot lore? I know I mentioned Tibet, but in like the Middle East, in like more of a desert region.
Well, I don't know about the Middle East. Arizona does have
Arizona.
Arizona.
What can you tell me about the activity in Arizona?
Usually up in the mountains. There are mountains and peaks up in Arizona which they claim that these creatures are, and certain researchers there have found prints. I haven't done a lot of research on that because again, that's Arizona.
Okay, yeah.
But I know that there have been down in Arizona.
Are they thought to be more nocturnal, or is it just any time of the day?
Well, a lot of people will tell you that any time of the day they can be seen. I think they're still more active at night. If you would go by the sightings are pretty equal in the day and the night. But I still think they're more of a nocturnal creature because they'd be a lot easier not to be seen at night.
Now, when you investigate, do you also do some debunking? Can you attribute, because not every sighting is going to be a sighting. Do you attribute it to certain things you find around the area? Are you able to debunk?
Well, some we think are just misidentifications, maybe of a bear or something like that. Usually some of the ones who try to hoax you, you get a feel after a while. It's like, well, this guy's not telling you everything. I had just given you one of our sighting report forms. They're very detailed. They're actually they were made by Dr. Paul Johnson. And there's about 45 questions in there. So we usually have our people fill them out, our eyewitnesses, draw what they saw. Drawings are very important.
Oh, really?
And then we either do a phone interview if they're an older sighting, or even if they're an older sighting, if it's close, we do try to go to the location. Maybe if they say, well, this creature was by this tree, we try to take measurements of the tree and, try to go back and look at the weather or if the weather could have affected them or something like that.
Now, do you get a lot of flack? Do you get a lot of those fake
We don't get a lot of,
recordings?
because you know what? Anymore, people are so wrapped up in everything else that they do. Most of them don't want to take the time to hoax you.
I mean, there's so much going on in the world.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
It's not a good time, as
do
you know.
your
as we
own
all
thing.
Know. Yeah.
So when did you start investigating yourself?
Well, my wife and I started our group, and actually I'll just say that Terry runs all these groups. She's like the backbone of our groups. Our group started in '86 with Q, Center for Unexplained Events. Okay. With that group, we research UFOs, ghosts, and at the time, Bigfoot.
You okay? Keep going.
Yeah, and so in 2014, we now have Center for Cryptozoological Studies, which we do just all of our cryptid work through there. And so we actually started field work about 2000 when we joined the PA Bigfoot Society.
Okay. PA Bigfoot Society. Yeah. When you were doing the original investigating starting in '86, you said you investigated ghosts. Have you had many paranormal experiences?
We've had several.
Can you tell me about a couple of those?
Yeah, we had a friend who lived up in Erie, and he was a pastor.
Okay. Up
in Erie. He since moved this year. They had activity in their church, so we did go to their church, and he says, come on downstairs, I want to show you the foundation of the building. So you go down these steps, you go through this one, you go through a door that's got those bars that you press, So we go there, he goes, here's the old foundation. So Terry and I go over and we start taking pictures, and all of a sudden we hear pump, 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 something's coming down the steps. And then the door starts shaking. So he looked at him, and he says, "This happens quite frequently here." So we went right around the corner, and we looked. Nobody there. This was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So he was the only one that had the key. The church was all locked down. Nobody else could have been in there. But it did sound like footsteps, and that door started to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be terrible.
We thought it was cool as heck.
Terrifying.
I mean, it was shocking, but it was like, okay, I can't wait. Somebody's got to be there.
Well, yeah, from the perspective of you going to look for it.
Yes.
If you're not expecting that,
Yes.
that's got to be terrifying. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal. Now, those I've had experiences in. I don't often talk about it much. I'm sure I will at some point. But when you talk about those, from my position and a lot of people I've talked to, I feel embarrassed almost. You know what I mean? Because it's something so far from the norm. You seem like you're able to talk about that so freely and with everyone. I've seen that there's a lot of conferences concerning Bigfoot, UFO, paranormal. Can you tell me a little bit more about those conferences?
Sure. We actually co-sponsor the longest-running paranormal conference in PA, which is the Butler Paranormal Conference.
The Butler Paranormal Conference?
Yeah. And this year will be our 13th year.
Oh, your 13th year. No. Excuse me. Now, tell me, how long is the conference, first off?
That conference?
Yes.
It runs from, I think it's 11 to 6.
Oh, it's a day-long conference?
It's 1 day, yeah.
Okay. What happens at a conference there?
Well, basically, we have a lot of vendors. We have a lot of paranormal vendors. We have vendors that sell everything from crystals to Bigfoot items, UFO items, jewelry even.
Okay.
And we have usually have 5 speakers. They each get an hour. We have a lunch. And it's just a great way to interact with the community. Hey, I've seen this.
Yeah, I imagine
I've
it's a
seen
lot
this. Yeah.
good way to network.
September 26th is going to be this year. We had to postpone it from our normal April time.
So you want to give that again to the people, the date and the title and where it's at then?
Yeah, that'd be September 26th. That will be the 13th annual Butler Conference, Butler Paranormal Conference in Lindora, PA, Butler County from 11 to 6.
11 to 6. Is there an admission fee?
Yeah, $15 admission.
$15. Okay, that's fascinating.
You should come up. You should come up this year.
I'm going to try to. Do you know what the speaker topics are?
Well, we don't have all of our speakers right now.
Okay.
So, but normally there's going to be speakers ranging from UFOs to Bigfoot to ghosts. We try to have a healthy mix.
Okay.
So,
keep it fun
psychics,
for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tuned into the new Unsolved Mysteries show at all?
You know what? We just watched the one UFO episode last night.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm excited, but I keep seeing ads for it everywhere.
Yeah, there's no narrator or anything. It's just plain cases and
Oh, there's no narrator.
no narrator
That
like
kinda
Robert
saddens
Stack.
me.
Yeah.
He was my favorite.
Oh, he did great.
Yeah.
Did great.
The guy who came after him, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember either.
Farina or something like that. But anyways, he just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
He wasn't the same. Robert Stack, he was like stoic and serious, but at the same time,
He had that great voice. He had that great voice.
Yeah,
too,
the brevity in it. That's and I think I mentioned that, and I hate to beat a dead horse, but that's what inspired me. You know, when I was younger, that was probably my first exposure to like the other side.
Yeah, ours was In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy.
Okay.
Yeah. Ours
Okay,
was,
so same breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with that since then. Now, you know what? Since I have you here, I'm going to ask you this question. And this is just a silly question, but being
There's no silly questions, only silly answers.
being a paranormal researcher,
Yes.
what's your take on the Ghostbusters?
The movie?
Yeah.
I can't wait for the new one, if that's what you're talking about.
What do you think of the original ones? What's your thoughts on that?
I love the first one.
Yeah.
Love the first one. Second one, I didn't think it was funny at all. I mean, I still watched it, but I'm one of the very few that didn't like
The second one was
yeah.
the River of Ooze or whatever.
Yeah, I just didn't think it had a good story. It wasn't that funny.
Okay.
And then the one with the woman was just a remake with the woman was just.
I blame the writing. I don't blame the fact that it
Yeah.
was women. I blame the writing.
Yeah.
They did a shitty writing. And that's Hollywood Minute here at Inquisitive Minds. We're always here for up-to-date movie reviews and analysis. Now, with the paranormal investigating, what is the weirdest story that you've come across that someone's called you or you've investigated?
Well, we did a private investigation in Rochester,
Pennsylvania?
Yeah, which is Beaver County by us, and these people, they had the house. Well, they bought the house, and a year later they started redoing the basement, and then they started to have all this activity. Things were moving, and they were hearing stuff. And we went and investigated with another group that we were with. And my wife was inside with one of the members, and I was outside talking to the gentleman. And we had this. We were next to this blow-up pool. The kind that you blow them up, and they're not the hard plastic.
They kind of fill themselves up by being filled with water.
So, talking to the gentleman, and we were I was about as close to him as I am you right now.
Safe social distance.
Social distance.
About 6 feet.
Yeah, and the pool was next to us. And all of a sudden, there's an indentation, like a square indentation in the pool that something is pushing that pool down. And it pushed it all the way down to the point where water was coming out of it.
Okay.
And we're just both looking at each other in amazement, because I was talking to him and we were looking at each other, and then all of a sudden, he didn't do it and I didn't do it.
So there was nothing that could have been doing it.
Nothing that could have done it. And that pool literally depressed, and a bunch of water came out probably for about 6 seconds, and then you could see it come up real slowly like it depressed.
Huh.
And we're just looking at each other like, what did this? There's nothing that could have done that. Something had to press on that to get that water to come out. That would be the weirdest thing.
Was that the first time you've seen something occur like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, my wife also, she saw my aunt had passed away, and she saw my aunt. This was when we were first married in the early or late 80s, and she saw her walking through our house after she'd passed away, only the top form of her in her nightgown.
Oh.
So, yeah.
See, have you? I'll predicate this with. That's where my specialty is. I have seen many apparitions, many things that I shouldn't have heard, many things that shouldn't have heard, so to speak. Have you ever seen any apparitions?
I saw on 2 occasions a dark shadow.
Okay.
I was working at a local Dollar General, and I was working with the lady who was running it at the time, and just certain parts of you would go back towards the certain part of the store and it'd feel weird. You just you didn't feel right. So I asked her one day, I said, you guys ever have anything weird happen in this store? It's just a gut feeling. You have a gut feeling when these things are around.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, you mean George? He's our ghost. She called him George. So on 2 occasions I had to go back, because I was only working part-time there in the evenings. So we would close up the store. So I went back, and there was a little hallway, and on 2 occasions when I went back, and this one section right towards where you shut the lights off, I saw out of the corner of my eye, I saw this look like a person that was a shadow. You saw a shadow. You didn't see the person, but it was like, and it gave you chills, and you looked, and it was gone. On 2 occasions that happened. So that's, she let us and the members of that old group do a quick half-hour little. We brought our equipment in, and we didn't find anything. But
ever find out any backstory behind that? To what
no, we
didn't.
We didn't.
I have a shadow story for you. I was maybe 5, 6 years old. We were living in an apartment complex. We had just got back, my mother, my aunt, and myself, and we got out of the car in front of the apartment complex. Up a little up on the hill was our mailboxes. Whatever, 100 slots or whatever it was for all of us. And there was a little boy, and it was in the evening. There was a little boy standing in front of the mailboxes, and there was spotlights shining down, and I just remember looking at him and seeing his shadow. And as I'm looking at him, all of a sudden his shadow just takes off and jogs around to the other side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And like I said, I was maybe 5 or 6, but that stuck with me my whole life. And I'll always remember seeing that. And, your parents don't believe you, and you don't know how to explain that at 5 or 6. But I remember seeing that. So that was the start of a lifetime of incidents for me. But it's been fun. So how often do you go, I want to say investigating, searching?
We do more in the summer.
Okay.
We've actually been doing quite a bit here. Everywhere from Beaver Creek to we investigated an old abandoned mine down in Strattonville, Ohio.
Even if you didn't find anything, that had to be fun.
Oh, it was fun. It was a blast. And if you're on my Facebook, if you look back, you'll see pictures of that. we do more like in the summer or spring, summer, and then in the winter, occasionally we'll do some hikes in the woods and things like that. But in the winter, you got the holidays, you have your other family obligations.
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, you have much more to tend to. When you go exploring these, you mentioned these mine shafts and what have you. Even outside of paranormal things, do you ever find anything just fascinating or interesting down there?
Just to be at that place.
Any true crime revelations from doing all this exploring? You're going to find stuff.
Well, apparently, one of the reasons that we went down there is allegedly somebody had seen a dark figure on top of the mine, and they looked, and they kind of ran away. And it's a good bit back there. You walk on railroad tracks, and you go up this really tall hill. So, is there something that could be there? I know we're going to be going back sometime and checking that out. So.
Huh. That's interesting. Now, I guess I'll have a question for you with as far as the Bigfoot-type animals on other countries. Has there been anything like that in the continent of Africa? Do we have any Bigfoot-type animals coming from that area?
Yeah, I believe that there is. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But I think that there is one in the African continent, too.
Okay, that's something I'm going to look into, because you would think if they are in relation to humans or primates, that would be a great place for them to, blend in. There could be Bigfoot all over the Congo. Who's going to know?
Well, there is the Mokele Mbembe, a sauropod-like dinosaur allegedly living in the Congo. So Lake Tale, actually.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Is
very
it
interesting.
Almost like the Loch Ness Monster type?
Well, kind of like a brontosaurus type thing.
Diplodocus,
yeah.
On land.
Well, it's in Lake Tale and the estuaries of it. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard about that.
One of my favorites.
That's fascinating.
Growing up, I'm a big dinosaur fan too, and love Jurassic Park now, of course.
Oh yeah.
Just the thought that maybe there's a remnant species.
That's what keeps me going to maybe there's not Bigfoot, but maybe maybe Mothman's real. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Chupacabra is real. Maybe one of them is real, and that's all you need is one.
That's just one, yeah.
For the world to go, oh shit, it's changed. I remember when there was a skinned or shaved raccoon or something that washed up on the shore somewhere.
Oh, probably Montauk. The Montauk monster.
Yeah, and it looked so crazy.
Yeah.
And people just lost their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first time they were finding giant squids.
Yeah, the Kraken,
people were getting their minds blown. So imagine one day we find something. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. Or even with all the UFOs or paranormal stuff, even something we don't think about. Say we find a fairy one day. That's going to blow everything out of the water. So what I'm trying to say is I appreciate you and the people like you that continue to search for this. Because there's plenty of people like me that aren't out actively looking, but are still very curious. So I appreciate it, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people that do.
Yeah, a lot of the researchers out there, especially the Bigfoot, they're very passionate. They're out there all the time. Now, we're not out there all the time because we have other obligations, but they should be commended because this is their passion. They spend money they don't have a lot of times. They spend time they don't have. It causes problems with relationships.
I can see that.
So we are probably the most cryptozoology in general. Cryptozoologists are probably the most passionate about what they do.
I'm going to look for Bigfoot this weekend. I thought you said you were coming to my mother's house. What's the difference? I don't know. Brian, where can the people find you?
Okay.
Give us some websites, some areas to look up to if people are interested and want to reach out.
Yeah, we do have two Facebook pages. I think you've been on them. Center for Cryptozoological Studies and also the Center for Unexplained Events. Both Facebook pages. And if you do have an encounter or any kind of sighting that let's say you see a Bigfoot tomorrow.
Okay.
You contact our group. We would like to talk with you. We'd like to get a report from you. Your name is never used. That's one thing we stress, confidentiality.
And just so that people know, this is not a condescending environment. If you call with a Bigfoot sighting, you're not going to be made light of. You're going to be spoke with and
and we want to
treated
hear
properly.
We want to hear your report. We'd like you to fill out that long form that I had given you. We'd like you to draw what you've seen.
So
very
in
important.
depth as
Drawings
possible.
are very important. If you want to send us a report or just contact us. It's Center for Crypto Studies. That's all one word at gmail.com, and we'll take your report. We'll send you the report form, and if you can send it back.
And one more time for your upcoming conference. You want to plug that one more time?
Yes, that would be September 26th, the Butler Paranormal Conference in Lindora, PA, Butler County. And that will be from 11 to 6. And then we also have our own second year of our Beaver Valley Paracon, which will be on October 3rd.
You said Beaver Valley Paracon?
Beaver Valley Paracon. It'll be at the Rochester Borough Building in Rochester, PA, Beaver County. And that I think that runs from 10 to 5.
Okay, 10 to 5. And I'm sure there was more information
on the website. That's $10
websites.
for that one, but there'll be 5 speakers at that also.
Okay, that sounds like a bargain.
And some vendors, maybe like 12 vendors. Not a lot of vendors, but...
Hey, I'm trying to dip my toe into the water because I'm obviously looking for a long time to do this long term, so I need guests that are involved in that situation.
I can get you a boatload of guests if we
send them my way. I've had more than a fun time. Anything else you want to let the people know? I'm sure we'll see you again on the podcast at some point. Anything else you'd like to let the people know before we start wrapping it up here?
Well, basically, there's things out there that we don't know. There's things out there that will boggle your mind, basically. If you see something, we'd like to hear about it, obviously, but not. Go to some of those other groups, PA Bigfoot Project or Keystone Bigfoot Project or the Fayette County Bigfoot Research Project. Go to these groups with your report. That's how we learn. We learn where the sightings are. Maybe we can pinpoint where these things are. Maybe we can have an encounter with them. But and all of these groups, too, they're all confidential. Your name is not going to be used, so you don't have to worry if you're
it still carries the stigma.
It still carries the stigma, unfortunately.
Crazy. Well, unfortunately, is right.
Unfortunately, but if you come to any of these groups, your name is not going to be used. They'll get your story out, but your name's not going to be used. So you don't have to worry if you go into a council meeting and they say, that's the counselor that saw Bigfoot. No.
There's also situations where you can talk with people that share the experiences that you've shared.
And a lot of these people don't know who to come to, who to turn to, and you're going to hear a sympathetic ear.
I will say from all the groups I've joined on Facebook, as far as Bigfoot societies, PA MUFON, everything about the paranormal, everyone has been so far very welcoming.
Yes,
I haven't had a negative experience yet, and it's nice to know, and it's nice to see people suspend their disbelief and look for something that we haven't seen yet.
And we're all and another thing, just to add, we're all looking for proof. Okay. I'm sure we all still have our doubts. Mm-hmm. Some of the people have been lucky enough to see them who run these groups. And
hey, that's a good analogy for life. We're all out here just searching.
Mm-hmm.
We're all searching for something. But thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Genuinely appreciated it. I'm Johnny Smith. You can catch me at facebook.com/TunaCanJohn or facebook.com/Inquisitive Minds Podcast. You can also email us at the Inquisitive Minds Podcast @gmail.com. That's INQUIZATIVE Minds Podcast. Shout out to Idiot Radio, and thank you very much for tuning in, guys. See you next week.